Monday Morning Matters.
Perspectives
from Southeast Asia.
Hi, this is Arlene.
And you're with Grace.
And of course, you are with our usual Monday Morning Matters, where we discuss issues within the Southeast Asia region. So today we are going to talk about Indonesia, specifically on Jokowi's administration. It seems like he was just recently elected as president, but actually it's been like more than half a year.
Yep, and that time really flies, and there were a lot of ups and downs in Indonesia after he became a president regarding a lot of issues. So we're going to be talking about and also sharing and also discussing about how he has been doing as a president in Indonesia so far.
So with us is Endy Bayuni. He's the senior editor at the Jakarta Post. So thanks for accepting our invitation for an interview with us regarding on this particular topic.
My pleasure, Grace.
Yeah. And Arlene here.
And Arlene, hi.
Yeah. So, perhaps you can share with us your thoughts on Jokowi as well as your background working at the Jakarta Post and how you usually would cover him as the president of Indonesia.
Sure. Well, let me just start with my background. I'm a journalist with the Jakarta Post, and I have been a journalist for 33 years now. And I have covered every single president except Sukarno. So, there have been 5 presidents since Suharto stepped down. And, of course, Jokowi is the current president. So I have been reporting on our president quite a bit. And I have to say that this president is different from the other 6.
Right.
He is struggling for sure, but he has been there for almost 7 months now. So I think we have to give him a chance to be able to govern effectively, which he hasn't done so far.
But there's also calls for him to step down by minority groups. It seems like they are not giving him the chance or the 5-year term for him to somehow prove himself right. But I guess from your point of view when it comes to Jokowi, does the expectation about Jokowi is too high up to the extent that when he became the president late last year, he didn't really fulfill that expectation that either he has promised or either Indonesian has idealized about him?
Well, the expectation is always running faster than the reality or the ability of any president to deliver. This had been the case with all previous presidents as well. But I think the voters knew when we elected him as president about some of the weaknesses of this president, of Jokowi. One of them is the fact that he does not chair a political party. All the previous presidents, all the previous 6 presidents, they had a political base, they had a political party, which helped to empower them, to give them leverage in governing, in the presidency. This one, he doesn't have anything. So he leads a coalition of political parties, none of which he chairs. And he has been struggling, to lead or to conduct the presidency and to deliver on his promises because of, he has to constantly battle with members of his own coalition to pass every single policy.
But do you think this is Jokowi's weakness as a leader, or is actually the limitation of Indonesia's political structure to the fact that you need to be part of a certain elitist group, or you need to be having that political influence before you can call yourself a president of Indonesia?
Yeah, I mean, this is the system that we have decided on. We have a presidential system, but last year in the election, an outsider from the political system came and challenged, and he was very popular. So he got elected. But there were talks about from minority groups of bringing him down. That's not going to happen. This is a presidential system. and not a parliamentary democracy where you can have a vote of confidence and the prime minister would fall if he does not feel if he doesn't win the vote of confidence. A presidential system means that he is good for 5 years. We cannot really impeach him unless he commits a really serious crime. So we are stuck with him for good or for bad with all the weaknesses for the next
like
4.5 years. Well, Malaysia has a parliamentary democracy. You actually have a vote of confidence in the parliament, right? We don't have that. So people may not like him, but I think we have to give him a chance to govern. But so far, I think the battle that Jokowi has been dealing with is actually the battle with his own coalition because of a power struggle. Everybody within the coalitions want to be influential, want to dictate their wishes, sometimes going against the wishes of the president himself.
You have been covering this for quite some time, even before he was the president, when he was the governor, I suppose. Do you expect this to happen when he was elected as president, that his biggest battle is internal rather than external?
Well, we kind of anticipated that this was going to happen, but we just hope that the members realize that he is the president and they have to give him the support that he needs, which is not happening at the moment. But
why internally people do not want to ally with him?
Well, they want to ally with his power, but they want to dictate him because he's perceived as a weak president, and everybody within the coalition, I'm talking about Megawati, Sukarno Putri, who chairs the PDIP, the largest party in the coalition, and of course the other major party in the coalition is the National Democrats Party. They all want to have a piece of the action, and they all want to dictate policies as they see fit. And many times this contradicts with the president's own wishes. And this, I think, was very clear during the appointment of the national police chief. It was clearly not Jokowi's choice, but it was imposed on him. And there was a big, long-running battle for 3 months before finally there was a compromise, whereby there was a compromise candidate, but the candidate was pushed on him by Megawati, became the deputy police chief. So it has been like this almost in every single major policy. It's a battle between the president and his detractors within the coalition government.
So the battle has been going on for the past few months already, but then compared to his previous positions as mayor and also governor, he's been facing a lot more challenges, and he's been tackled by a lot of issues in the country itself, besides the political issues. For example, even when it comes to economical growth in Indonesia, he has been facing a lot of issues regarding that, right?
Yes, well, being a president is a completely different ball game than running a small city like Surakarta or even a large one like Jakarta. There's so many more challenges, there are so many obstacles,
right.
And I think it's he had an economic vision, but when he came to power, he came at the time when the global economy is slowing down, exports are falling. And therefore, he had this vision of Indonesia growing by 7% each year between now and 2019. But of course, that's not going to happen unless the global economy picks up. And I think people are talking about growth of less than 5% this year.
But for the last 10 years, even under the previous Susilo Bambang president, it was still, it was lackluster in terms of Indonesia's economy. So do you think that for Jokowi, his main focus for his administration is more towards in creating a more robust economy rather than trying to deal with his own political influence internally?
Yes, I think his main concern is the prosperity or the welfare of the people. But for that to happen, he needs to have a strong economy. And he has a vision of how to build the economy, and I think the priority now is to build the economic infrastructures, and then therefore the need to have investments both from domestic and also from foreign in building the infrastructures. And of course he needs to create jobs. Don't forget Indonesia. Our labor force grows by 4 to 5 million each year because the people are graduating from schools, from universities, and they're looking for jobs. So any president will have to be able to create 4 to 5 million jobs each year, and for that to happen.
And you are talking about like middle class job, not unskilled labor, right?
No, I'm talking about, ideally, of course, we need, the skilled jobs. But, we have 4 to 5 million people joining the labor market every year. So any jobs created, industrial jobs, or even, services, industries jobs. But for the government to be able to absorb those newcomers to the labor market, the economy has to grow by 4 to 5% every year, just to absorb the labor force.
Anyway, we'll take one short break. When we return, we will discuss more on Jokowi's policy, especially start with his economic policy for Indonesia.
Monday Morning Matters.
Perspectives
From Southeast Asia.
Hi, this is Arlene.
Hi, this is Grace.
And of course, you're still with us at our Monday Morning Matters, where we discuss issues within the Southeast Asia region. And this time we are focusing on Jokowi's administration after more than 6 months performing as the President of Indonesia. And with us, of course, is Endy Bayuni, Senior Editor of Jakarta Post. So, continuing our discussion, of course, you mentioned earlier a bit on Jokowi's economic policy, but just to revert back to his political influence, do you think he really cares whether he has a strong hold within the coalition or within his own party? Or do you think that he's keeping his eye on what matters to him the most? And he mentioned over and over again that what matters to him is the people of Indonesia. And in this case, he would rather focus more on economic policy.
Yes, but at the same time, he has to be realistic that when he governs, he has to ensure that the interests of the coalition members in his government are also taken into account. He's the president. He's very popular, but when it comes to governing, he has to work with his own coalition, and he has to work also with the parliament. And the fact that he does not control a political party, he does not chair one, means that he has to negotiate with every members of the coalitions, also with the parliament, to be able to govern effectively. So he does care. There have been talks about him being recruited by one of the political parties. I think it appears, but I think he is not a person who betray his own party. He was given the ticket to run for president by the PDIP of Megawati Soekarno Putri, and I think he will continue to remain loyal to her, although he is de facto the president of the republic.
Other than his position in the political the situation at the moment, when we talk about the economic again here, in fact, Indonesia is the world's leading exporter of the palm oil and the tin, and also second biggest rubber exporter, and in fact it's the fourth largest coal producer. And also Indonesia, by economically today, it should be more attractive as a manufacturing spot, and it's very populous in terms of economic in Southeast Asia. However, when it comes to workers and labor, what we talk about in the first segment, there are still the wages are still cheap, perhaps below the average even. And then when it comes to infrastructure, that is also part of the economics. So what is your perspectives in this area and when it comes to the economic part?
Well, I think we have a big challenge. You mentioned all challenges. Of course, we have the natural resources to fall back on.
Right.
But it's really the challenge is how do you manage the economy in a way that really delivers the growth and the prosperity. And this has been the problem going back to the Suharto years and then the presidents after him. How do you manage the economy? And I think President Jokowi he has an economic vision, and he's actually changing the paradigm of the economic policy by proclaiming Indonesia as a maritime nation, meaning that we need to really exploit and take advantage of a huge maritime economic resources,
Right.
which we have not been doing all this time, and therefore a lot of the economy aligned or adjusted to accommodate this new economic vision of Indonesia being a maritime nation.
Mm-hmm. And from your perspective, besides in terms of the investment in infrastructure and in natural resources and in other areas, manufacturing and all that, what about the human investment, as in like human resource? Because I believe during the election campaigning itself, the word mental revolution was so popular. I don't know whether it's still popular right now, but it seems like he wants Indonesian to feel empowered and having a certain distinct national character and culture that is different from previous years.
Yeah, definitely. We have a huge problem when it comes to education, at all levels. We're talking about primary, secondary, tertiary educations. It's not just. I mean, during the Suharto years, I think he did a good job in terms of building the facilities. Now everybody, and school enrollments, we're talking about almost 90%. We still don't have enough seats at universities or college, but we are building that. We should be focusing on improving the quality of our human resources. And to be frank, I think that this came from many experts in Indonesia. The quality of our human resources are behind of many of our neighbors, definitely behind Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, the Philippines, and therefore I think. And we're talking about the ASEAN Economic Community coming up at the end of this year. Indonesia needs to be able to to compete with the best within the region. I'm not sure whether there is time for that. At the moment, I think Indonesia is going with the advantage of having the numbers. We are the largest members of ASEAN. We have a huge population.
Yes.
But they're not necessarily skilled and competitive enough, within the region. It's a problem that everybody realizes. It's a problem that we have been struggling to overcome. But these things takes time. It just doesn't happen overnight. And we have a very good and committed Ministry of Education. He knows the problems. He knows the challenges, and I think he also has the solutions to. The long-term solution to address this problem.
What is the main challenge of education in Indonesia? Is it the bureaucratic system, or is it more towards the structure, or is it more towards the quality, or more towards the access?
Yes, I think I would say it's really the policy or the law, not the national education law. We always have this big debate in Parliament every time we discuss the national education bill. About how much of science should there be, and how much of the moral characters, more specifically religious instruction, should be included in the curriculum. It seems to be that in the last 10 years anyway, the argument is that there should be more moral and religious education components in the national curriculum. We even cut back on the number of on the hours of English teaching. Used to start at the 4th grade. Now would only begin for the 7th grade of school at school. And we also cut back some of the natural sciences, and then we added more religious instruction classes. This is a political decision. Yeah, I disagree completely. My own position is that religious instruction should be carried out at home rather than school.
Right.
But the politicians decided otherwise, that, at school, even the kids should be should be given more religious instructions and less on the other, secular topics. It's still a debate, but that's what democracy is. You debate you make your arguments, and then sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But of course, the result is the quality of the education.
On the other hand, I mean, you can have you can train the best skilled Indonesian in Indonesia to help to generate the economy of Indonesia. But on the other hand, again, I think the elephant in the room here is the economic system, or the economic model of Indonesia is very much oligarchy. Do you think Jokowi is working towards breaking down the economy to create more social mobility among Indonesians?
Yeah, I would say, in all fairness, this is already happening since the end of the Suharto regime. During the Suharto years, I think the economy was very much dominated by the Chinese conglomerations. Now that is not the case anymore. They are now indigenous. I'm talking about Indonesian or Malay, race business groups are emerging, and they're competing with the best of the Chinese conglomerations. So it's fairly open and very transparent. Of course, it's still dominated by a few conglomerations, but at least they are not dominated by one single race anymore. There is a problem of the problems of entry, that the laws are not open enough. The economic laws the economic policies are not enough to allow for new entrants. But I can say that this is much better than the case was 15, 16 years ago. So it's a slow evolution of Indonesia becoming a more an open market economy.
Continue the topic with education.
Yeah.
Does Jokowi focus on the local students to send them outside of Indonesia, or just let them stay in locally and educate them locally? Because we all know that Jokowi has been shouting out for the better education for the country.
Yeah, there's always a very small fraction member of the Indonesian elite who have the chance or opportunity to study abroad. And I also understand that many foreign governments, United States, Britain, Japan, Australia, the West, and they are also offering scholarships for Indonesians to study abroad. And the Ministry of Finance has also come up with funding that guarantees scholarships for any Indonesians who have been admitted to the top 100 universities around the world. So, if you are admitted at one of these universities, automatically you will be given a scholarship by the Ministry of Finance. So there is a policy of encouraging more and more Indonesians to go abroad and study. But of course, the number is never enough. The number of Indonesian graduates is very small compared to our neighbors, and we even have fewer PhDs compared to Malaysia, Singapore, and Thailand.
So anyway, we will take another one short break. When we return, we will discuss more on Indonesia's foreign policy under Jokowi.
Monday Morning Matters.
Perspectives
From Southeast Asia.
Hi, this is Arlene.
Welcome back. This is Grace.
And of course, you are still with us on our Monday Morning Matters together with Endy Bayuni from Jakarta Post. So, talking about our discussion today on Jokowi, one thing that I think is important for us to highlight is his foreign policy, which is different from the previous president, because his policy seems to be emphasizing more towards the importance of what the Indonesian people would benefit, rather than being friends with everyone within this region. So one of the key area within Indonesia's foreign policy would be on its, I guess, lackluster focus on the ASEAN economic community, or ASEAN as a whole. Would you agree with that?
Yes, definitely. I think people are, even in Indonesia, among the foreign policy establishment anyway, we are wondering what is his commitment towards ASEAN, whether it is still important or not. But I think the way to look at it is that ASEAN remains important, but it's not the only avenue for Indonesia to channel its foreign policy, which had been the case before. It seems like we were putting all our eggs in one basket, the ASEAN basket. And I think there was some constraint in that, which impedes Indonesia's foreign policy executions. And I think this new president decided to do it differently. ASEAN remains important, but we are pursuing other possibilities. And I think if you look at Jokowi's vision during the election campaign, he talked about turning Indonesia into an Indo-Pacific power, and also turning Indonesia into maritime power. And that means, again, this also ties up with his economic policy of, trying to exploit more Indonesia's economic resources. Basically, that means Indonesia wants to play a role, along the Indian and Pacific Oceans, which means that, there is probably less emphasis on ASEAN and more emphasis on the role that Indonesia plays in linking ASEAN, Asia and Australia, and the strategic position that Indonesia plays as the archipelagic state linking the two oceans.
So he's looking more than just ASEAN. He's looking at the Asia Pacific, and that's probably the reason why he choose to be within the RCEP. I mean, of course, all Southeast Asian countries are within the RCEP, the Regional Economic Comprehensive Agreement. But at the same time, he seemed to be not that keen towards another economic bloc, which is called TPP, or Trans-Pacific Partnership. Why is that so?
Well, I think this had been the policy with his predecessor, also President Yudhoyono. And I think
is that an anti-Western, I guess, foreign policy that he's embarking?
No, not really. As I think we are not rejecting the TPP completely. We are just looking at how it develops. And the reason given by the previous administration is that the TPP set such a high standard when it comes to trade and investment that it would be very difficult for Indonesia to comply with some of the the requirements.
So Indonesia is just being realistic about the TPP.
Yes. Well, I mean, we are waiting and see how it develops. But at this stage, I think the way it is being explained, the TPP is just too high a standard for Indonesia. Our trade regulations and everything else are still basically a 20th century rather than 21st century. Definitely we need to upgrade, but we need to upgrade at a pace that we are comfortable with. And if we join the TPP, we have to upgrade much sooner, and which probably could be backfiring on our business community. So at this stage, the attitude, whether they had this under President Yudhoyono, even under President Jokowi today, is that we're just waiting and see. We are not rejecting the TPP, but we wait how it develops with a lot of interest. Of course, we pay attention on how Malaysia and I think other countries like Brunei and Thailand do in this new emerging TPP.
Right. Well, talking about TPPA, the business sector, I want to touch on the business sector in Indonesia. How has the business been growing, especially perhaps the Jokowi's focus on the SMEs and then perhaps the startups in Indonesia?
Yes, I think the business environment is opening up. More open, more transparent, more market driven. But at the same time, of course, the government is paying attention to the needs of the small and medium enterprises, or even the micro businesses, because these are the ones that provide the most jobs.
But is he doing anything differently from the previous presidents?
No, but
or he's
not
just
yet.
Continuing.
Anyway. Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
We haven't seen any major departure, but because the policies that had been created or started by the previous administration was they seem to be good enough. The problem in Indonesia is not policies, but actually the implementation of the good policies.
I think it's the same in most of the countries in Southeast Asia, including Malaysia.
you can have good policies, well-meaning policies, but if you cannot implement them, then that's really problematic. And I think in Indonesia, with this President Jokowi anyway, it's all about implementation, about enforcing the rules and regulations to make sure that all these good policies really become effective.
So, continuing the business environmental topic there, how about the geographical challenge when it comes to Indonesia?
Yeah, it's 5 big islands.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus multiple small islands.
Yes, yeah. Again, I think Jokowi has a vision, and this is part of the vision of Indonesia being a maritime nation. He is actually now thinking about starting up a maritime toll. Basically, that's a shipping services that links all the islands, and it should be regular shipping services. At the moment, it's very difficult for people to send freight from one island to another. You have to order specifically to do that, and actually, it's a lot easier for Indonesian companies to ship their products over to Malaysia because there's the shipping services linking between Medan and Kuala Lumpur, but not Medan and Palembang. For example, they're on the same island, but it's very difficult for them to ship the goods even within the island. So I think Jokowi is trying to overcome this by introducing the maritime toll shipping services that link the whole of Indonesia from east to west with regular shipping services.
And that requires huge investment and funds. Is that the reason why Indonesia is having, I would say, look China policy, because of its involvement with the ASEAN Infrastructure Investment Bank, and it seems like he would prefer to be closer to a superpower like China rather than the US?
Yes, I think that's one of the reasons. Definitely, we need a lot of investments. We need to build or to repair the seaports, and we need to have we need to improve our shipbuilding capacities. And I think this administration needs a lot of money. And unfortunately, that money is not going to come from the Asian Development Bank, for example, because the ADB is not engaged in long-term investment of infrastructure development.
More like human development and all that.
Yes, but I think the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank is offering that opportunity. So I think President Jokowi immediately accepted it because it tallies with his economic policies. But of course, we want to look into the question about how the money is being raised and how the terms of the loans. But I think in general, Indonesia is very much welcoming the idea of the AIIB.
Yeah. And on the other hand, I think we would love to touch on human rights, which has been the area that he hasn't been performing that well, or people are having mixed review about him. I guess we should start something that is quite obvious, which is death penalty. Why do you think Jokowi insisted on continuing the death penalty despite calls from the international community not to do so? Is he trying to prove a point here of his leadership?
I think he sometimes in November or December he just decided that he will order the execution of people on death row, mostly for drug trafficking. And the reason he gave was that because he decided Indonesia is under an emergency, under the state of emergency, and that we are declaring war against drug trafficking. And then to show that Indonesia is serious, we should start executing people on death row. And of course, this upset many of Indonesia's neighbors and friends whose citizens are among those on death rows, and there were appeals for him to show compassion, but he seemed to be resolute and decided to ignore those appeals and just went ahead with the executions.
And talking about the execution itself, I mean, I guess we shouldn't just pinpoint Indonesia, because within Southeast Asia, probably around 2 countries that do not have death penalty, and even Malaysia and Singapore do have death penalty, and they execute people because of drug trafficking or drugs usage. why there's no I guess political will in either in Indonesia or within Southeast Asia to improve the human rights condition?
Yeah, well, I think at least in Indonesia we would distinguish the executions from human rights issues. I think the executions is about implementing an existing law. Which is, like you said, is recognized in many ASEAN countries. But when we talk about human rights issues, I think this has to do more with the rights of the people, to express themselves, to the right of them to organize themselves, and the right to be free from torture. And I think on that in that area, I think Indonesia we have made a lot of improvements since the days of Suharto. We no longer have these problems that we used to in Aceh. Of course, East Timor at that one time was a source of problem, the human rights violations. We still have a small problem. Well, I wouldn't say problem. We still have some problems in Papua, and there have been issues, accusations of human rights violations committed by the police and the military. And I think it was good that President Jokowi made his third visit to Papua since he became president.
And released a few political prisoners as well.
Yes, and he released political prisoners, and he actually also opened the territory to foreign journalists, which had been closed before. So there is a gesture on his part to try to improve the human rights situations. The big problem in Indonesia is more about impunity. We have all these violations in the past, but no one has seemed to have been punished for those violations. But I can tell you today that there is now a bill on truth and reconciliation being debated in Parliament. Basically, this is to bring up all those past atrocities, those past tragedies, out to be discussed openly and then put it behind us once and for all.
Is this the first time that it happens, trying to dig out all the past crimes and trying to talk it out? Well,
there was an attempt in 2002, 2003 Parliament, but it had some problems in the implementation, so it was sent back to the Constitutional Court, and then the court simply repealed that bill. So we are starting new this time. Trying to address the loopholes that existed then. And hopefully, I think whether this year or sometimes next year, the bill will be passed. And then we can actually start addressing those past human rights violations that goes back to the 1960s. The massacres of the communists in 1965, 66, because that is a black spot in our history as well. Yeah.
Well, talking about human rights, only recently it's been highlighting on certain issues and how Indonesia has been reacting and showing the responses to those issues. But why is it highlighted so much? Is it because of the Jokowi's position in political party, or is it because just how media has been playing, especially with all those online platforms? Because when it comes to all those capital punishment, it's not new topic to talk about. It's been there for longest time, and now the awareness among the public is just increasing dramatically.
And it seems like rather than about capital punishment, it's more towards the strained relationship between Indonesia and Australia.
Yeah. Well, I think because the way the execution was being framed by our president is about Indonesia exercising its sovereignty. So the way the President Jokowi responded to Tony Abbott or to President Dilma from Brazil or King Alexander from the Netherlands is that, he said he understood their concern, but Indonesia is a sovereign nation. And the death penalty is a positive law recognized in our system, and that and because Indonesia is in the middle of a war against drug traffickers, we are going to execute them all. And so the way it was being framed is that Indonesia was exercising a sovereignty, and I think the public saw it as a reaction to an attempt by the foreign leaders to influence the President Jokowi's opinion. So Indonesia, the way Indonesia responded, especially in the social media, we became more patriotic or nationalistic, and basically tell the foreigners, stay away from our domestic affairs. Don't put pressure on our president. He's doing a good job. Of course, the flip side is there is actually a small band of people, a group of in Indonesia who are against capital punishment. But they have a very small, a minority voice. I think the majority public opinion is still very much in support of the execution of people on death row.
I have question about Malaysia and Indonesia's question, partly because we are based in Malaysia. Do you think under Jokowi relationship between both countries has improved or not?
Well, I think we have a new president. He will take a little while to get to know Prime Minister Najib and the other Malaysian leaders. There was a good and cordial relationship between President Yudhoyono and Najib, of course. But Vice President Yusuf Kala, he knows Najib very well because he had served as Vice President before. And I think both come from Bugis, right? So they have that connection, the Bugis connection.
The cultural connection,
yeah,
I suppose, yeah.
But I'm sure, I think, with Malaysia, I think with any president, the relationship will always be nice and cordial. We will have our fights. I would call them petty fights.
But what about like a real like human rights issue? Because I think Indonesia has not been happy at the way Malaysia treats its domestic labor, and some of them are Indonesians.
Yes, that has been played up in the media a lot, along with all the other stories, all the bad stories or negative stories coming out from Malaysia. And this is why if you talk to ordinary Indonesians, it seems like they probably will tell you that they hate Malaysians, but they actually love Malaysia. You just look at the number of people who go to Malaysia for visit or for medical treatment. But, it's the media playing up the
sentiments.
Yeah, I'm sure for every single Indonesian mates who are poorly treated, there must be like 10 Indonesian mates who are very nicely treated by Malaysian employers. But I guess that one would be in the media, right?
Media plays huge role.
Yeah, that's true. On the other hand, regarding on your personal assessment, we are towards the end of our show now. Your personal assessment on Jokowi, do you think after more than 6 months being in power, has he done a good job? Because so far, I mean, we have been discussing about his various policy and his popularity within his own coalition, but he has also been seen as a popular leader, as in like he conduct a lot of spot checks in different local areas in Indonesia's local political areas. It seems like he's doing his job, but it's just not enough or not fulfilling the expectation. That's from us and outsiders' point of view. But from you covering Indonesia's politics and covering Jokowi exclusively, what is your assessment?
I would say he has done quite well under the circumstances. He has delivered on his social policies. The healthcare, the scholarship for kids. And a few others. He raised the price of fuel in November with very little protest. But of course, then the price of the world price of oil had gone down anyway. But he has done quite a lot for the first 6 months. But of course, as I said at the start of program, the expectation is always far ahead of his ability to deliver. We wish he could run even faster, but we also understand that he has problems in managing the coalition of his own government and in reconciling the interests of the different powerful forces within the administration. And this power struggle within the administration was conducted in the open. We saw this happen in the last few months of how Megawati, Yusuf Kala, the PDIP, and National Democratic Party are trying to exert their power and influence over the president. And I think we just wish that the president will be able to manage and handle this challenge better. But we understand he's just one person without any political party, so he has to struggle. So probably this president takes a little longer than others in adjusting to his new position. But like I said, he's good for the next 5 years. Like it or not, he's our president. And I think the best way that the public and also the politicians and political parties can do is actually help and support this president in actually delivering his promises.
Okay, that's very optimistic of you.
Yeah.
Hopefully in the next 6 months, or I guess the rest of his first term as president of Indonesia, he will make major changes in Indonesia's economic, politics, and society as a whole. I guess all the best for Indonesians.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you very much, Endy Bayuni, for sharing your views with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure, Grace, and thank you, Grace and Arlene.